My name is Amon Rappaport, Chief Communications Officer in the Strategic Communications Department with Karen. And we, among other things, are responsible for the university brand and message, reputation, marketing, media relations, and good storytelling that's aligned with our brand. So I've been at the university about 2.5 years. And spent my 25-year career in marketing communications around issues of social impact and sustainability, often working to improve outcomes for youth from either underserved or underrepresented populations. Karen, do you want to say anything briefly about your background before we get started?
Sure. My background is in marketing, and I started first on the corporate side, and I worked at an agency. And then I found my calling in nonprofits and higher ed. And I've been at Cal Poly Pomona for not quite a year. And I came here from Cal State Fullerton, where I was in charge of the It Takes a Titan campaign. So happy to be here with all of you tonight.
All right, get your popcorn. Here we go. As Melissa said, we'll take, put your questions in the chat. I'll do my best to try to keep an eye on it, or she'll call out. I think we'll take questions at the end is the plan. So as advertised, why we need branding and you. First, we want to just do a little bit of 101 on branding. Okay, there we go. That'll advance. And first, just the distinction of the terminology. We use these words a lot, brand versus brand and branding, but let's talk about what we really mean. So here's a picture of both. On the right side, you've got branding. I might not be able to see you all, but raise your hands if you have one of these devices, right? Or two, or maybe three. That's the product design. It's the Apple logo. Thanks. I see Jasmine, virtual hands. I see some virtual hands and real hands. That's branding on the right. On the left is the brand. That's the experience of this kid, a product so easy that a child can use it and be delighted. And if you're like me, maybe your kids have even shown you how to use your own Apple device. Here on the left, up corner, we've got branding, that beautiful big gold apple. And on the right is the brand, this fervor, this enthusiasm of a guy who I'm going to guess might have slept outside overnight just to be first in line to get the new iPhone, right? So this is the kind of enthusiasm you want for your brand. Branding reminds you of what the brand stands for. So look, an apple by itself is nothing more than an apple or a banana or an orange, right? It's been infused with a lot of meaning, and we know what it stands for. And you may notice that this Apple mark, as we sometimes call it, or logo, the branding reflects the brand. It's simple, elegant, not too complicated, right? Just like Apple products. So as a recap, brand is something kind of intangible. It's hard to describe really what is a brand, but it really comes down to what we think or feel or experience about that brand. And it comes from your purpose, your mission, your distinction vis-a-vis other brands. Branding, in contrast, is tangible. It's what we see, it's what we hear or touch. Speaking of hear, if you've been watching a lot of Netflix, you know the very familiar bum bum, right? We've all heard that. If I played that, you'd know what it was. You didn't even have to see the big red N. And branding comes, of course, from things that we're familiar with, like logos, color, music. All right, next. So why do we need branding in higher ed? Now, perhaps more than ever. Here's why. Demographic trends predict that high school graduates, the number of high school graduates is going to peak in a few years up here at 442,000, I think that's per year, and then start to decline. That's the peak. That's the decrease of about 12.6% over the next dozen years. Or put in marketing terms, our customer base is shrinking. We're going to have less people entering college, right? or available even, I should say. Newsweek put out a episode or a issue rather recently, on this term they call this Generation COVID, right? This is the post-COVID dilemma, I guess we would say, of students who are like, I don't really need to go to college. I could be a TikToker and make a lot of money. Over the past 2 years, college enrollment is down 10%, a loss of about 1.4 million students pursuing degrees, and students and even their families are kind of questioning the value. Why should I invest in 2 or 4 years of college when there's plentiful jobs and I can make a decent amount of money? The truth is the wage gap is as high as it's ever been. It's a good ROI, but we have to make that case about the value of a college education. And of course, that's our core offering at Cal Poly Pomona. So let's just look a little bit at how our competition is branding. I'm pretty sure you're all aware that there's now a third Cal Poly to the far north, Cal Poly Humboldt. They got quite a bit of money from the governor's office, and they're spending about $2.5 million on rebranding as a Cal Poly. And that looks like these Instagram ads and billboards. And this billboard, by the way, is on the 10 freeway, not far from Cal Poly Pomona. So they are coming to town, competing for people in our market. So that's one example. The UCs, of course, here's the 8,000-pound gorilla in our market, the best known university in the region, frankly. UCLA's brand is all about optimism. That's what's really behind the curtain here. And you can see, the impact they're having in the world is what they're trying to convey with this imagery and messaging. Even out-of-state universities like ASU, they are emphasizing, happiness and joy of graduation, discovery and innovation down here, right? We talk about discovery and innovation and experience. They even have a polytechnic campus, by the way. And they have come into LA most recently. So they have a campus now in Los Angeles. And let's continue on. The community colleges, a very critical pipeline, of course, for transfer students to us, but some recent legislative changes have made it easier for students to transfer not just to Cal States, but to UCs. They've also made it more affordable to get their general ed requirements done at community colleges, so it's less expensive for them to do it. So while we have relied on this pipeline, we're also in competition with the community college system. And unlike the UCs and the CSUs, the community colleges, and there's more than 100 of them, they've banded together. They have a statewide marketing campaign. Here's one ad from it. It's icangotocollege.com is their website. So they've really got their act together when it comes to statewide marketing and branding. And then bringing it back to home quickly, this is the Bronco Guide. It's produced by our student newspaper, so we don't run that. It's a student-run publication for incoming students every year. And if you open the inside front cover, you'll see that the advertisement here is for Mount SAC right down the road. So even the community colleges in our region are advertising to our students in the publications that we as a university produce. So to summarize, we've got a couple other Cal Polys. We've got UCs, including Riverside, that's projected to grow by 30,000 students. We've got ASU and the community colleges. All of them are competing, all this competition rather is vying for our students. They're vying for our staff and talent, and they're vying for dollars, for donations, frankly. So really critical that we not only do great branding, but that we most importantly really define our brand. And we've been spending some time in the past, I'd say 9 to 12 months, really defining our brand. And I'm going to turn it to Karen to talk about that.
Okay, thank you. So as Amon said, we've been doing work on this because this is essentially how you fight back with the competition and stand out in the market. So the brand strategy, with the brand strategy, it defines the essence of who you are. And this was based on a lot of research and work that we did with a firm called Tomorrow Partners.
And I would say great collaboration with divisions all across the university too, from students to staff to faculty to alumni.
Very true. So what they found was that, as you know, there's a lot of love for Cal Poly Pomona, but what makes us unique is somewhat unclear. And they found that polytechnic is an ambiguous term. Some people define it broadly, some define it quite narrowly. Learn by doing is something that people understand, but it's not exclusive to us. And in fact, our sister campus, SLO, is leaning into that phrase, learn by doing. And they want to own it, which they can't, but every time we use it, we're going to use it, but not in the same way that they use it. Okay, and then finally, there's some confusion about the logo that we currently have. So Cal Poly Pomona, really one of our standout points is that we're the #1 polytechnic in the nation for diversity and social mobility. And that's something that we can really lean into. We are unique because we have an agricultural heritage, but yet we are on the edge of a very vibrant city, and we do a lot of cutting edge work when it comes to some of our majors and specialties. We do have a very unique culture of care at our campus, and that came out time and time again from the different interviews. And we support varied paths to student success. So not everybody fits the same mold, and we're okay with that. So Cal Poly Pomona is where careers begin, mentorship thrives, and future leaders learn to lead. It's where Broncos are born. So let's get a little bit more into the Cal Poly Pomona Polytechnic experience. As I mentioned, it's not an easily defined term. But what we kind of whittled it down to, and I will say that we have more work to do on this, but as of now, it's defined as students that learn in many ways across many majors, through work, and in the world. And here, the Polytechnic experience is where students learn how to learn, they learn by doing, and they learn from diverse sources. The other part of the next part of the brand strategy is defining our reason for being, what we believe, and what we promise as a brand. And our purpose is really why we exist as a university. What's our reason for being? And it comes down to help anyone who dreams of success achieve it. So if there's one thing that you remember from this presentation, I hope you'll remember that the purpose of our university is to help anyone who dreams of success achieve it. And when we say that, this slide sort of defines all those terms. So helping, we support our students and give them resources every step of the way. And especially with anyone, that definition is very broad. So regardless of who you are, where you came from, your wealth, your gender, you name it, all are welcome.
There we go. Just put it in the chat.
Thank you. Okay, what do we believe in as a university? Well, our core beliefs are that higher education belongs to everyone. We also think that challenge and failure enrich learning, and diversity strengthens community, and there are many paths to greatness. It's not one size fits all. Our promise to our key stakeholders, which you would say students, but also faculty and staff, is to learn to thrive at college, at work, and in the world.
I'm going to add alumni in there too.
Yeah, I think that's true too. So who are we and how do we show up? That was another part of the brand strategy that we determined. And if you were to define our university as a person, that's what an archetype is. And so we as a university are a mentor because we guide, we consult, we counsel, we help students along the way. And the key part here is that we guide, but the student has to figure out the rest on their own. And so we don't do it for them. We guide them as an mentor archetype. So here's a little summary slide of all the parts of the brand strategy that define the essence of who we are as a university. So all of them are rooted in the university's mission, vision, and values, which are on the left. And then the new elements that we came up with were, again, the purpose and the beliefs, promise, archetype, and then also the personality. And as a university, we're optimistic, compassionate, inclusive, resilient, and real. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, so that's the first part of the brand strategy work. The second part was coming up with audience personas. And what a persona is, it's sort of like a composite of a group of constituents or audience members. And so we talk to students and faculty and staff and alumni, but we wanted to get more in-depth knowledge of what really motivates these particular groups. And there could be different mindsets that they have, or they're coming from different places, they need different things. And by having that deeper understanding of your audiences, you can speak to them and message them in a way that resonates. So in terms of students, we defined 4 personas. I won't go through all the details here, but basically top left is Danny. And he is one who is looking for a good paying job and financial stability, but he's got a lot of obstacles. He's first gen and he's doing a lot of things that makes college difficult. On the top right, we have Lindsay, and she's confident but constrained. She's sort of coming back to school after working some. She wants to quickly get her skills and move on. But she has a lived experience that should play a role in her college experience. On the bottom left, we have Sarah, and she is in search of belonging. And so she wants to be valued and recognized and really learn about who she is and where she's going. And finally, on the right is Jason, and he's weighing earning versus learning. He's one of those students that Amon mentioned earlier, who's deciding, should I become a mechanical engineer or should I become a TikToker? And so he's got a lot to figure out, and he needs to figure out his passion and get help navigating and being convinced of why he should be getting a degree. We also created personas for faculty, staff, and alumni donors. And with our faculty here, we have Janet, who's future and inclusivity focused. And basically, she really likes to work with students and help them get skills that they will use in the future. And she's committing herself to helping students thrive. And then in the middle here, we have Juan, who's a staff member, and he wants to support students as well. He's dedicated to service and growth, and that's assisting students. He had assistance along the way, and he wants to kind of pay that forward. And he also personally wants to grow too in his career. And then finally, on the right, we have Alexis, who is an alumni donor who's giving many different gifts. And she remembers how Cal Poly Pomona supported her when she was in school and all the mentors she had and all the support. And she wants to stay connected, and she wants to, again, pay it forward with students and help them succeed.
And Karen, I'll just add briefly before we go on that, we have a lot of demographic data, particular about our students, right? What percent or which race and economic background and so on and so forth. This is our attempt to combine that with psychographic information, or in other words, thoughts and feelings and beliefs and motivations and obstacles. So Karen, what Karen's showing is just the top line snapshot, but for each of these personas, we have several pages of those details that I just described, and also looking at their entire journey. So those of you from the business world will be familiar with the phrase customer journey. So we need to think about, and I'm going to use Alexis here as the example. Again, these are not real people, these are composites. we need to start thinking about Alexis before she comes to Cal Poly Pomona as a student, pre-CPP. Then in year 1 and 2, what does she need? Then in year 3+, what does she need? Then when she becomes an alumni donor. So we want to think about that whole journey and not kind of silo the, the communications to just outreach for pre and just student this and just alumni that. We really want to think about our audiences along the whole journey. This helps us do that.
Thank you. And then building on that, when you know the needs and the mindsets of your audiences, then you can message them appropriately. So the last part of the brand strategy is the messaging matrix. And again, you can see our different personas listed there. These are the students. And the messaging matrix essentially breaks down what they need to hear from us and what's going to resonate with them. We have the same for faculty, staff, and alumni donors. And here is one of our first attempts to take all of the learnings from the brand strategy and bring it to life. And this is a view book that we worked on for prospective students. And you can see that our personality of optimism and inclusiveness is all included there. You can see diversity and other elements that came out in the brand strategy. And so we plan to have more of that. That's what we're working on now is bringing the brand to life. Here is one of the inside pages of the outreach piece. And you can see the actual term of #1 Polytechnic University in the nation for diversity and economic mobility. Like that exact phrase is there. And if you read all the other text, we talk about our inclusive campus, our culture of care, how you can explore different career paths, and so on. All the things that we know will resonate with our prospective students, the ones that will be a good fit for our university.
Another example of sort of bringing the brand strategy to life is a project we did working with our students. So we know that I think you all may have heard of, Graduation Initiative 2025, the CSU goal to, achieve certain graduation rates, and in particular, eliminate what they call the equity gap, or put another way, ensure graduation equity so that students of color, students from low-income backgrounds, first-generation students are graduating at the same rates as others. So, I saw some data internally. It was very clear which cohorts could most benefit from our help and help us, therefore, collectively close that equity gap. And it's the intersection often of students of color, students from low-income backgrounds, students who are first generation, or all of the above. And so, based on my background, I've done a lot of work, as I said, with youth, but in particular, involving them as co-creators in the strategy and in the content. And so we recruited a half dozen last semester current students, now alumni. This is one of them, Eddie Rangel, who reflect those identities, and asked them, how can we best reach you and your peers? And this is a photo from one of our brainstorming sessions where, among other things, they said, what is really an obstacle that a lot of us face is the imposter syndrome. That voice in the head that told me when I arrived that I didn't belong here, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not going to make it. And why don't we hit that head on? Why don't we challenge that voice in our head that so many of us hear, debunk it, and turn it around and show what happens when you do that? So from that inspiration was born a campaign we launched this past November, timed with National First Gen College Student Week. It was for CPP's program for the first gen community called I Am First. And here are some of the light pole banners of our, we had about 16, in this case, students, expressing their strengths, worthy, confident, proud, etc. Faculty and staff, and of course, alumni. So we had them all participating and being willing, and I will say, I think for the first time, to a depth of authenticity. Karen talked about the brand personality, sure, inclusive, real was one of the brand personality words. We wanted to be very real with this campaign. So with that, I'm going to show a brief video that was created, inspired by, and with the collaboration of all of those first gen Broncos.
I am not going to make this. I am unseen.
Not smart enough.
I'm scared.
I'm not gonna make it.
I am scared.
I'm
struggling.
I'm not gonna make it.
I am scared is, as a first generation college student, what if I don't complete to reach my degree?
I definitely felt the pressure from my mom and my dad.
I think there was a little bit of the imposter syndrome for sure, that I felt like I didn't belong here, and it was a mistake that I'm going to college.
It's one of those things, right, that as a first gen student, you don't have anyone really to help you out.
In a way, I feel like it's an obligation because my parents never attend college. I want them to be proud of me.
There's those thoughts in the back of your head of sometimes the first person who tries it's gonna fail.
So that sort of devilish whisper in your ears that, hey, this might not be for you. See, it's difficult. You're afraid again.
Don't think about it as, you're sort of stumbling, but you're being a trailblazer.
Everyone made a mistake. No one is perfect. You're not alone. Even if you feel like you are.
I want a college degree like that. That has always been my aim. I will be getting a college degree. Just the question was always in what, where.
I am scared. I am confused. But hey, I'm also encouraged. I'm also motivated to try. It was mostly organizations on campus that helped me succeed in college.
I really found the importance in mentoring and that mentorship network that we have available to us at Cal Poly that we don't always tap into. Take advantage of it. Have no shame. Do your best. And best foot forward.
My ramp advisor is amazing. He was always there answering all my questions and meeting me on Zoom. It was just amazing having that person there. For the first time, I felt loved. I felt like I had somebody who was in my corner, even if they didn't fully understand what I was going through at the time.
Cal Poly Pomona gave me the environment, the clean slate to paint my own picture.
I am courageous. I am adventurous. I am resilient.
I am excited. I am first gen.
I am first gen.
I am first gen.
I am first gen.
Awesome. Thank you for the heart emojis and the claps, and please, share your reactions, whether it's emojis or in the chat. Our hope was that this reflects who we are and what we stand for, and I hope you see coming through loud and clear, maybe not the exact words used, but our purpose to help anyone who dreams of success achieve it, and who better than the majority of our students who are the first in their family to go to college. More to come around that. You may, while we're speaking of alumni, you may have received an appeal letter, end of year appeal letter. Karen worked on it. One of those students was nice enough to agree to tell his story in that letter and seek support on our behalf. So, all right. So now we're going to move on to the stuff that I know people.
I am not going to.
Why is that? There we go. All right. Now we're finally going to move on to the branding. For those who joined us late, we described at the very beginning, your brand is your intangible stuff. It's what you stand for. It's the feelings, it's the thoughts, it's the experience that you want people to have. Branding is usually where the mind jumps, right? It's like logos. Let's do logos. But you got to figure out that other stuff first if you want the logos and the branding to remind people of that experience. So, I've been at CPP about 2.5 years. I've talked to a lot of people, alumni included, both formally and informally, and, done some highly scientific research and asked, how do you feel about our brand? Again, that's what we stand for, the experience. And this is how people feel. They love us. I mean, people who know us love us, generally. There's a lot of love for the brand. That's the good news. Our branding, mixed reactions from this to this to this. Oh, there we go. Natalie even threw it. The other Natalie threw it in the chat. I don't love our new logo. Yeah, to be clear, there's not a lot of love for the octagon logo. And, let me, I want to, give, I guess I'll just say credit to my, some of my even current colleagues and predecessors. When this logo was done, the attempt here was to reflect our best understanding of what the university stands for and makes us unique at the time. And that is the Polytechnic education. It has 8 elements. You may or may not know that. I think that meaning is lost on people. And there's 8 colleges. Unfortunately, there's a lot of challenges with this logo from a design perspective. It's complicated. There shouldn't be so many colors. There shouldn't be so many facets. Quite frankly, you need a logo that works as a single color. You remember the Apple logo. And most importantly, now that we have a greater depth of understanding of what we stand for, our purpose, and just to be clear, this purpose wasn't in my head and Karen's head and some agency that we hired. We're holding up a mirror. We're reflecting back what people have told us we stand for. And pretty much everyone whom we asked, what makes us unique? What is our greatest impact on people's lives? Is that social mobility in some form or fashion is what they said. But while, a logo may have sort of been an attempt to talk about the Polytechnic experience, there's some pieces, important pieces that make us special and that are not frankly reflected in our branding. And that is social mobility, that is diversity, and that is that culture of care that Karen talked about in who we are and that mentor persona. So, here's our current branding system. And to be clear, this is going to be our system for a while. There's actually 16 variations here, as you can see, of logos and word marks and different combinations. These are all approved. So not everything uses the octagon logo. In fact, behind me, I'm not looking, but one of these sides, you can see the word mark. And it's complicated and it's hard to use. The other issue is we've actually have 3 different logo systems in the university. So one is the university logo, that's what you're looking at. The university seal, which I think some people like more. And then there's the Bronco, right? Which is actually the athletics logo, but it's being used in all kinds of ways that have nothing to do with athletics, from street signs to this graduation sash for a Collins student who wasn't an athlete. People know and love the Bronco. That's good. It's just not the university's logo. And we've got, right, clear at CPP, I see in the chat. People love it. Good news. We're gonna keep it. But you don't have to have 3 logos that are completely unrelated to each other, which is what we have now. There's 3 distinct and kind of competing identities that are not harmonious. Yes, there's green and yellow. Yes, there's horses, but one's a Bronco and one's a Arabian. I mean, there's just no harmony among them, unfortunately. Doesn't have to be that way. Sac State showed us that you can have a logo, a seal, and even athletics, while not using that same flame icon, it's evocative of that flame. And you look at these and you can say, oh, those go together. That's one university. So I want to announce here, make sure you're all aware, we are going to build out a logo system, starting with that Bronco, bottom right, that everybody loves, That font, athletics font, is probably going to change. They don't love it. And we're going to redesign the university logo and the university seal. So all of that goes together as one family, and it's very clear who we are and what we stand for. And it's something hopefully that people love. We're going to be very, I will say, inclusive in the process. So stay tuned for an email at some point. You're going to get to vote on some final choices. And we want people's input this time around. We want to hear from you. So, I promise that. So that new logo family, yes, that's going to be a rebranding. That will roll out probably mid 2024. So we're going to use what we have until then. And it'll be a while until this rolls out. But I want to be clear, that is the plan. That'll be about 6 years after the prior rebranding that led to the Octagon logo. Here's the other issue we have. We've got a sort of sea of the Wild West of logos and branding, and people using the Octagon as hot air balloons or turning it around or putting things inside and just kind of writing Cal Poly Pomona and all kinds of fonts and logos and whatever that they want. Obviously, that sort of breaks the basic rule of branding, consistency, right? You want to reinforce. I don't blame people because they don't have good guidelines, and we haven't given them the tools that they need to create what we'll call sub-brands, but we are going to build out that sub-branding system so that colleges and divisions and even products like honey and wine and Pumpkin Fest and whatever will know they'll be associated with the brand, and it'll be clear and reinforce that. Here's what sub-branding looks like. On the left, for those who aren't familiar with it, the common application or the common app is what a lot of students use to apply. This was on the left, before they had sub-branding, and on the right, you can see that master brand at the top, and then some of their different initiatives below. You can see how they're all tied together. All right, so once we develop that branding, then what we want to do is a branding and advertising campaign. And so, we really need some outside experts to help us with this. We actually recently just put out a request for a proposal to hire an agency. Why do we need that? Well, good news. Those who know us love us. Here's some market research we did. On the top, you see the question, what's your overall impression of each of the following higher ed institutions? We asked community members in Southern California, general public, our parents and families, current students and prospective students. We gave them a list. That's from CPP to SLO to Fullerton and so on, and some UCs. We gave them that list, and here's how we ranked. So blue is the top rank. So pretty much in 3 out of those 4 categories, we were the top, and we were second only to SLO. So this is the number. This is the percentage ranking of the top 2 choices, good and excellent. So again, people who know us, are familiar with us, love us. Here's the problem: not enough people know us. So we asked this question of prospective students, when you think of higher ed institutions in the greater LA area, which come to mind. So this is what's called unaided awareness. Can they recall? UCLA, top of the list. USC, no surprise. We're third on the list, tied with Cal State LA, not bad, but only at 24%. And that means that 76% we're not top of mind. We need to be top of mind. That's what campaigns do, is gets you top of mind. And that's why, for example, Humboldt is doing Instagram ads and billboards on the 10 freeway. All right, so our last couple sections, and we'll wrap up and leave time for questions. Want you to know what we're planning, when, what you can expect. So first of all, in the past year, we've done a lot of stakeholder engagement. We developed the strategy, personas, messaging that Karen talked about. We're doing brand ambassador training, and we're doing that tonight with you, as a matter of fact. So if you didn't already consider yourself a brand ambassador, please know that you are, because if you went to Cal Poly Pomona and you speak of Cal Poly Pomona, you're representing the brand. You may have hopefully good things to say. You may not love everything, but you represent the brand. So this year, we're going to develop the logos and branding, engage more stakeholders, have a chance for the entire community to vote, develop that sub-brand system, develop the creative assets and campaign we need, and again, more brand ambassador training. In 2024, we'll give a preview of what's to come. We'll launch the campaign, there'll be a transition period where we'll be out with the old and in with the new, and people will, have a window to make that switch.